The ABC Evening News with Howard K. Smith reporting for Frank Reynolds, who is on assignment in Los Angeles, where Hubert Humphrey accuses Richard Nixon of playing politics with our national security. Tom Jarrell reports on George Wallace's Madison Square Garden campaign rally. Sam Donaldson has the vital statistics on Linda Bird Robb's baby. And guest commentator Bill Moyers gives his view of the ideal president. Now, here is Howard K. Smith.
Good evening. More rumors about peace, and they sound a little more substantial. Richard Nixon gave momentum to talk of an early bombing halt today and possibly even a ceasefire in Vietnam. A statement issued to reporters in his name today said he has been advised of a flurry of meetings in the White House and elsewhere aiming to bring things to a head before the November the 5th elections. Also in Vientiane, Laos, Premier Suvarna Phuma said today that U.S. Ambassador William Sullivan told him the United States definitely intends to halt the bombing, but would not specify a date. White House News Secretary George Christian refused comment on Phuma's remarks, but ABC's White House correspondent Bill Gill says the president is concerned about the reporting of peace rumors by governments not directly involved in the Vietnam War or the peace talks. Gill says the president fears that such speculation could damage the delicate diplomatic negotiations reportedly taking place. In Paris, during an interview on French television, North Vietnam's top negotiator, Xuan Thuy, said the reported U.S. peace offer is just a rumor. Thuy again said there'll be no breakthrough in the peace talks until the bombing has stopped unconditionally. In Saigon, United States Ambassador Ellsworth Bunker met with South Vietnamese President Thieu, their 7th meeting in 9 days. There's speculation that Thieu still refuses to allow the NLF, the Viet Cong's political arm, to have a role in expanded peace talks. Defense Secretary Clark Clifford in Washington today warned against attaching any great significance to the lack of combat now in Vietnam. Clifford said the president continues to strive for peace, but there's been no reduction in U.S. military pressure against the enemy. Clifford also rejected Richard Nixon's charge of yesterday that the United States faces a security gap with the Russians. Clifford said we have a substantial military superiority over the Soviet Union, and the United States, he said, could launch 4 times as many nuclear missiles as Russia can. Nixon had charged that the Russians could become militarily stronger than America because of the Democratic administration's failures to meet their defense responsibilities. Campaigning in Los Angeles today, Hubert Humphrey also denied Nixon's charges. Frank Reynolds, who is on the campaign trail with the candidates for a few days, reports on Humphrey's day.
Before coming out to the farmer's market this morning to admire apples, squeeze squash, and pat pomegranates, the vice president took time out to let go with another blast at Richard Nixon. Somebody in his headquarters was probably up all night trying to gather the figures that the vice president used to refute this morning Mr. Nixon's charge of last night that a security gap has been allowed to grow and to widen between the United States and the Soviet Union during the last 8 years. Mr. Humphrey leaped to the counterattack today as though he were a boxer trailing on points in the late rounds, but suddenly confronted with an opportunity to score a possible knockout.
There is no security gap, and there will be no survival gap unless we follow Mr. Nixon's advice. Mr. Nixon's statement is among his most irresponsible to date, and it does not reflect concern for our national security, but only for votes. Now, more is involved here than a presidential election. In an effort to catch votes, he is playing politics with our national security, undermining the confidence of our allies, encouraging recklessness among our enemies, and undermining our long and patient efforts to bring a rational end to the madness of the strategic arms race.
We are likely to hear much more about this security gap issue between now and the end of the campaign, for it is the now freshly flickering hope of the Humphrey headquarters that Mr. Nixon has made a mistake that will enable the vice president in turn to hammer away at a familiar theme, that Richard Nixon simply cannot be trusted, that he plays fast and loose with the truth and now with the very security of the country. It is really not much more than a variation on that old theme, would you buy a used car from this man? This is Frank Reynolds with the Humphrey campaign in Los Angeles.
In a moment, George Wallace at Madison Square Garden.
take half our weekend just to get started.
Hey, Raleigh Filters. Since when?
Since yesterday. I tried Raleigh's and I like the taste. And the coupons are a good idea.
Hey, that is a good taste. Better than what I have been smoking.
I think you found a cigarette for me.
Is that ours?
I borrowed it from Martha. She got it with Raleigh coupons.
Come to Raleigh Filters. Come to good taste. And remember, the famous Raleigh coupon also comes on light menthol Bel Air.
Bel Air tastes light 'cause the menthol's right. Bel Air tastes light 'cause the menthol's right. Just the right touch of menthol with the white filter too.
You get a special kind of lightness when you smoke Bel Air. Special because the menthol's right.
Yesterday's Gallup poll reported that Richard Nixon's lead in the East has narrowed down to 5 percentage points over Humphrey, with Nixon polling 43%, Humphrey 38%, and Wallace 13%. A new Gallup poll shows Nixon retaining a substantial lead in the Middle West and in the Far West. Wallace remains ahead in the South, but Humphrey has made gains there. Here are the figures for the Midwest, showing a Nixon gain while Humphrey has fallen a point since October the 10th. And here are the figures for the Far West, with both Nixon and Humphrey up in the past 2 weeks. In the South, Wallace and Humphrey have gained while the Nixon vote is down. Wallace is on a swing through the eastern United States. Tonight he is in Pennsylvania. Earlier he campaigned in Trenton, New Jersey. There, as usual, there were many Wallace backers, a smaller group of hecklers, and some minor disorders. What happened in Trenton was a small-scale version of what happened in New York last night. ABC's Tom Jarrell reports on the big Wallace rally in Madison Square Garden.
Wallace came to New York for a quick frontal assault against the home base of what he considers the big, liberal, anti-Wallace Eastern establishment. About 16,000 persons, admitted by ticket only, nearly filled the garden. When Wallace and his running mate arrived, they received a rousing 20-minute standing ovation. To the candidate, it must have seemed like a little piece of transplanted Dixie. The main confrontations between pro and anti-Wallace people took place outside, often in the form of heated arguments.
They don't want to work anymore in Alabama, Mississippi, picking corn and picking cotton. Because they can come up here. They can make more money here on welfare.
There is no American citizen who does not want to work, and if you say he does not want to work,
you believe that?
I do.
There were a few more active incidents like fistfights and shoving, but a feared riot between opposing sides was averted. The serious trouble was apparently prevented by keeping a large protest group behind barricades. 3,000 police were on duty to enforce the ground rules. Inside, amid balloons and Confederate flags, Wallace went after one of New York's most ticklish problems, its schools.
Now, what are some of the things we're going to do when we become the president? We're going to turn back to you, the people of the states, the right to control your domestic institutions. Today, you cannot even go to the school systems of the large cities of our country without fear. And this is a sad day when the greatest city in the world, there's fear not only in Madison Square Garden, but in every school building in the state of New York, and especially in the city of New York.
Through careful ticket distribution, the number of hecklers was kept to a manageable size.
After November 5th, you anarchists are through in this country, I can tell you that. That's all over. Get the cameras turned back around this way. You know, everywhere we've spoken, we've had this same kind of crowd. But the television puts all its footage on a few folks who don't know how to behave in a crowd and make it appear that there are no people supporting you here. And I frankly think the networks are doing that on purpose myself. I don't think they want to show the support we have here in New York City throughout the country. What the newspapers say about us. Everything that I've said tonight is logical. and reasonable and constitutional. Not a single thing have I said tonight that anybody can argue logically with, and that's the reason they call us extremists and want to say we are fascists. Well, I want to tell these newspapers something. These large newspapers who think they know more than the average citizen on the street in New York, you haven't always been right. They were mistaken about Castro. They are mistaken about our movement. And they are mistaken about the good people from New York State who are here tonight supporting our candidacy because the two national parties, other than our party, has paid no attention to you, but it paid attention to those who make the most noise here in Madison Square Garden tonight and every other place in the country.
Afterward, many left, humming Dixie and shouting white power. Tom Jarrell, ABC News, New York.
Democratic vice presidential candidate Edmund Muskie, who once silenced left-wing hecklers, today did the same thing with right-wing ones. In Winooski, Vermont, pro-Wallace hecklers interrupted his meeting. He offered them 2 minutes to say what they wanted to say. The hecklers looked at one another awkwardly, couldn't think of anything to say, so they walked out, and the Muskie meeting went on. Next, guest commentator Bill Moyers on the ideal president.
This dull kitchen makes me feel like jumping out the window. Don't, Louise. Here's something new that'll brighten your kitchen. New Spray Jubilee Kitchen Wax. It's so easy to use. Just spray and wipe. Some shine, huh? It cleans as it shines. Watch this. Spills bead up on the Jubilee side because the hard wax finish won't let them settle down.
Use Jubilee Kitchen Wax regularly. New spray or liquid from Johnson Wax.
Now you can clean your rug this afternoon. Entertain guests tonight with Glory, the new spray foam rug cleaner. Just push the button. You get instant deep cleaning foam. Sponge it in with a wet mop. It dries fast, usually dries in 2 to 4 hours. Then vacuum. So easy you can clean your rug this afternoon. Entertain guests tonight with Glory, new from Johnson Wax.
Continuing our series of guest commentaries on the ideal president, here are the thoughts of a man who's been close to the presidency, former White House News Secretary Bill Moyers.
James A. Garfield only served in the White House 6 months before his assassination, but that was time enough for him to exclaim, "My God, what is there in this place that a man should ever want to get in it?" The answer, of course, is power, the exercise of power, the chance to lead. It has long been thought that some special providence watches over drunks, fools, and the United States of America. This is a comforting thought, but hardly good history. For we now know that the 35 men who have occupied the White House have had more to do with the making and unmaking of American history than any discernible cosmic benefactor. Some of our presidents have been good, others quite poor. A few, like Washington, Lincoln, Jackson, Wilson, and Franklin Roosevelt, were great, and fortunately for the country, held office in periods of great crisis. Some very weak men, on the other hand, have also been in the White House when trouble occurred. The absence of presidential leadership in the 1850s contributed directly to the crisis that led to the Civil War. During the Reconstruction, the White House was occupied by a well-meaning but alcoholic president who was neither chief nor executive. We've paid ever since for his failure to restrain the radicals in Congress. There is no single yardstick of presidential leadership, but by far the most important influence is the character of the man himself. The office permits him to be as big or as small as he chooses, but what he does in the office depends less on its prerogatives than on the kind of man he is. Judging the character of a man is always a dubious gamble, the hardest a voter has to make. But as we've learned on the long and troubled march of self-government, it is also the most important. This is Bill Moyers.
A shouting match today at the President's Commission on Violence. That story in a moment.
Save! Special bargains now on sale during Sears Harvest Sale.
Values like a Kenmore zigzag sewing machine with beautiful walnut finish. It mends, darns, stitches, appliques, and makes buttonholes, and a whole lot more. Try it, only $66. With the kids back in school, you know how hard it is to keep a supply of clean clothes on hand. Choose from 2 quality Kenmore washing machines, completely automatic. Your choice, $148. No money down, no payments till February. Also for wash day, a 3-pound box of super concentrated detergent, only 66 cents.
Save on these and other special bargains during Sears Harvest Sale through Saturday.
Hurry to Sears store-wide harvest sale at both Sears stores today through Saturday only.
Representative Hale Boggs said in New Orleans today that the presidents of the 3 television networks and some movie producers will be subpoenaed to appear next month before the President's Commission on Violence. The commission at that time will probe what it calls the use of violence and brutality for profit. At today's commission hearing in Washington, longshoreman philosopher Eric Huffer tangled in a shouting match with a witness, Herman Blake, an assistant professor of sociology at the University of California. The subject was rage in the black community, and here's how it went.
Rage is cheap. Rage is easy. Let me return to that union. You go there all week long. You don't see Negroes raging, or you don't see any despair or anything like that. You see Negroes enjoying life, working, eating, drinking, and actually bucolic, having a good time, living good. It's a good life. Then you have a meeting. We come together. And then comes the rage. But after 10 minutes of meetings, you suddenly realize that our union is the darkest Mississippi. It's a ritual. Rage. It's an exercise. Something coming out there. The hardest things are quiet work. Now, for instance, here is the Panther movement trying to infect people with rage. What the Negro needs most, as far as I'm concerned, is for Negroes to trust each other.
The Panthers are not trying to infect black people with rage. The Panthers are trying to channel in creative ways the rage which already exists. When you walk into the black communities of which we are talking, you see people without jobs or with jobs which have such a low level of income that black men very frequently feel that it's an insult to even require them to hold that.
There is rage amongst the Negroes on the waterfront. It's at the meetings. The first man in the United States, I think, who wrote about the need to create a Negro community was I in 1964.
Then why do you stop us from becoming a community then?
I say that you have to build a community. You have to build a community, and you are not.
We can't build a community with white people like you around telling us we can't be what we are.
You are not going to build it by rage. You are going to build it by working together.
You see, you're defining it.
They haven't raised one blade of grass. They haven't laid one brick.
We've been throwing them, baby, because you've been out there stopping us from laying them and raising grass.
Say, Mr. Chairman,
Huey Newton, one of the founders of the Black Panthers, said that his followers would, quote, go to war if necessary to win control of their communities. A tape recording of his statement was played for the commission in Washington today. In the recording, made in a California jail while Newton was on trial for murder, he said his followers intend to abolish all political parties but the Black Panthers. Newton was convicted of manslaughter in the killing of an Oakland policeman. Next, ABC sports editor Howard Cosell examines the spirit of the Olympic Games.
Can this exquisitely proportioned beauty survive? She's about to be tormented. Watch. 27 tons of sand and rock will crash down on our beauty. We're talking about the elegant new ballpoint pen from Bic. The refillable Click. Can the Click survive? We'll soon know. Dare we look? Yes, the sleek finish gleams. Retracting mechanism works perfectly, but will it write? Like all Bics, the new Click writes first time, every time. Its diamide ball never fails. Carry it proudly.
Pick up a beauty today. The new Bic Click. Refillable. 8 delicious colors. Very expensive. 49 cents each. You'd be silly to spend more for any pen.
Tomorrow, the 19th Olympic Games become history, and ABC sports editor Howard Cosell in Mexico City thinks the Games have lost some of the spirit of their founding father.
This is where the Olympic spirit is, right here in the Olympic Village. The Olympic spirit is dreamed of by Baron de Coubertin when he revived the Games in Athens back in 1896. It'll all be gone in 48 hours, not the buildings. They'll become co-op apartments. But the spirit will be gone because this is where young people from all over the world learn to live together, play together, laugh together, sometimes even to love together, as Olga Fedakova of Czechoslovakia and Harold Connolly of the United States did some Olympiads ago. I think, because this is the one place where I have found the Olympic spirit, that I should bring to you, as the 19th Olympiad comes to its close, what I take out of this as a fundamental premise. That it is false any longer to pretend that the Olympic Games are sports and not politics, because they have become exactly the latter, politics. And I think it is time for the International Olympic Committee, with its archaic curmudgeon of a president, Avery Brundage, and the various national Olympic committees, including our own, to take a look at themselves and to seek to bring the Olympic Games back to the dream of de Coubertin, if indeed it is at all possible. They've got to remember that when de Coubertin started the thing, there were no flags and there were no anthems, with the nationalism and the inevitable politics that results. They've got to remember that when the Games were started, no scores were kept, no races for gold medals. But this is what dominates now today. Remember this, the achievements of our American athletes were extraordinary, but transitory. There will be more achievements, more records, more games. The job is to make the Games in the Olympic ideal. One man seeking to prove that he is the best in all the world at what he does. That's not the way the Games are now. Howard Cosell reporting from Mexico City.
ABC continues its coverage of the Olympic Games tonight with 3 hours of live coverage. Consult your local listings. Cardinal Richard Cushing of Boston said today he will offer his resignation effective at the end of the year because of adverse publicity and what he described as hate mail surrounding his defense of Jacqueline Kennedy's marriage to Aristotle Onassis. Another grandchild of former President Dwight Eisenhower announced wedding plans today. Barbara Ann, 19, announced she will marry Fernando Echeverria Uribe of Bogota, Colombia on November the 16th. On the New York Stock Exchange today, Dow Jones Industrials were up more than 4.5 points. More than 14 million shares were traded. The New York Stock Exchange Index was up 17 cents. On the American Stock Exchange, nearly 6 million shares were traded. The American Exchange Index was up 13 cents. In a moment, a happy event for the First Family.
Very, very nice. So smooth. Very soft hands. Too dry.
Any man of the world will tell you, American women have the softest hands of all. And why not? It's no secret more American women soften their hands with Jergens than the next 6 lotions put together. And now the soft one has added even more softeners.
That was a good one.
Don't surrender when your hands are extra dry. Jergens hand cream is rich enough to win over the reds, the ruts, the cracked. Reach for the last resort. Jergens hand cream will make your hands victorious.
There was good news out of Washington earlier this morning, news of such importance that the president himself made the announcement. ABC's Sam Donaldson has the story.
Down the side corridor of Bethesda Naval Hospital came Lyndon Johnson at the alarming hour of 21 minutes past midnight. But babies consult no man on their arrival time, and daughter Linda Bird Robb had just given birth to her first child. The new grandfather was highly pleased.
Miss Johnson and I and Linda and Chuck are very pleased to welcome to our family a baby daughter. We saw the baby at close range, and the baby was expressing herself as you females do quite often.
Did you feel kind of useless there for a while you were at the office and they were here taking care of everything?
I was anxious.
Anxious. Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Grandfather Johnson, who wanted a girl, said the baby was born at 12:03, had black hair, was healthy, and vociferous, to use his word. Cigars flowed like pens at a White House bill signing ceremony. Then he was off to bed. The president returned at mid-morning, bringing grandson Patrick Lyndon Nugent, who must already sense that he is no longer the sole attraction. The new attraction still has no name. Mrs. Johnson, who spent the night at the hospital, gave a progress report.
The baby's fine, very pink and vocal. 7.5 pounds. Just yeah.
Have you been permitted to hold the baby?
No. As a matter of fact, I don't want to yet. Baby is so little.
The new baby has already accomplished 2 good works. She's given the society writers an excuse to drop the Kennedy Onassis wedding for a while, and she's proved to her happy grandfather, who hasn't had many successes this year, that life is not completely one-sided after all. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, Bethesda Naval Medical Center.
In Da Nang, South Vietnam, Marine Captain Charles Robb used a traditional Marine Corps word to describe the birth of his daughter. Outstanding. That's tonight's news and comment. This is Howard K. Smith. Good night.
Special thanks this week to stations WTAE-TV Pittsburgh, KSAT-TV San Antonio, KGO-TV San Francisco, KABC-TV Los Angeles for their help in preparing reports from their areas. Monday through Friday in color, the ABC Evening News with Howard K. Smith reporting for Frank Reynolds. 2 leading Republicans, former Governor William Scranton of Pennsylvania and Senator John Tower of Texas, will be the guests on an hour-long edition of ABC's Issues and Answers, Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central Time.